Okay, it's Friday. Welcome back to my man cave kitchen. It's Friday night, and we've been doing this thing for a while now. I'm kind of enjoying it. I hope you guys are too. So, just getting started. Gonna give it just a minute here. I think I've got everything going. The Facebook feed is working. Tom Cleveland's with us. Dave Johnson. Happy Thanksgiving to both of you guys. Uh, if you're joining me for the first time, let me know where you're from. And yeah, we're going to have a drink tonight, just like we always do. Uh, in my newfound hobby of tasting, hey Jimmy Hazelwood. Boy, there's a name I hadn't seen lately. I hope you're doing well. Jimmy's from my hood, friends. I went to high school with Jimmy, and he's a he's a good fella. He's living down in the Charleston, South Carolina area now. I think he's still down that way. But anyway, I went shopping this week, and I picked up a bottle of this Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Select. And in my short stint with this bourbon and whiskey tasting hobby so far, this guy right here is amazing. This is one of the best ones I've had so far. So we're going to have a couple of fingers of that tonight. So this one also came with this. It was a gift box that had this Glencairn glass with it that's laser etched in the bottom of the glass. It says single barrel, hand selected. It's got a Jack Daniel's logo in the bottom of the glass. It's really nice. So yeah, but this has been good, and it's just got a beautiful sweet aroma to it. It's got it's got a lot of caramel notes in here, and it's just really amazing. Christopher, I am not much into rye. Not yet. I haven't done a lot of tasting with the rye grain bills or the full rye. I've got some Four Roses back here behind me that I opened up recently. A single barrel. It's a single barrel Four Roses, which is if I'm not mistaken, it's a little heavier on the rye than a typical bourbon, and it's uh, it's not a strong rye. The only real heavy rye I've tasted so far is the Jack Daniels. We When we took our Angels Share tour at the distillery, we had a tasting of a single barrel rye from Jack Daniels, and it's not bad. The thing about it is that was the last taste we had in a five taste flight. We started out with the number 27, which was really truly amazing. I want to get a bottle of that, but that's so expensive. I'm holding off on it. Then my favorite from the flight was the second taste, and it was the Sinatra Select. And I have managed to acquire a bottle of that. So, and then the third taste was this single barrel Select, which I've got right here. The fourth taste was the single barrel proof, which I bought a small bottle of that on site at the distillery. And the last thing we tasted was the single barrel rye. And the single barrel rye was so different from everything else in that lineup. It was really spicy tasting compared to the sweetness that we had gone through to get to that point. And I might try it again. I might buy a small bottle of that. So, uh, but the rye whiskey is definitely a different flavor experience than the bourbons or the typical bourbons and the Tennessee whiskeys. So, yeah, no, I'm not really into that yet, but I'm probably going to pick it up. So, if you guys are having a drink with me tonight, let me know what you're having. If you're drinking a beer, I'm a beer guy first and foremost. This whiskey and bourbon thing is something that I'm new at, so I'm kind of learning as I go. Man, that's just a flavor bomb. It's like a dessert in a glass. It's really, really good. And man, I had some notes here. Have I dropped my notes? I did. Look at that. That's my notes. My notes for later on. When we get down to the gadget segment tonight, I've got something a little different that I want to show you, and I had to make some notes to go along with that. Adam Langley says Buffalo Trace, and let me tell you, Adam, I'd like to try some of that. I really would, but I live in North Carolina, and I'm just unable to get my hands on any of it. I've been to a lot of places trying to find it, and it's just no go. I'm going to have to go somewhere else to get that. I might just make a road trip over into Tennessee or maybe even up into Kentucky one day. See if I can get my hands on some of that. I'd love to try it. I understand it's the best bang for the buck in the bourbon world, and I'd really like to try it. But here in North Carolina, everything is sold through the ABC stores, which is the Alcoholic Beverage Control that's run by the state. And I know other states have the same sort of deal. Tennessee's got something like that, and South Carolina does too. But South Carolina, I don't know how it works in South Carolina, but we went to this Total Wine in Greenville, South Carolina, and they had the most stuff I've seen in my life. But I went down there looking specifically for that Jack Daniel's Sinatra Select, and I found it. And I'm actually glad I did because I was in one of the ABC stores here earlier in the week, and they had it, but it was $20 a bottle higher here than what I paid for it down in South Carolina. So we will. I'll get my hands on some Buffalo Trace at some point. I'm not highly concerned with it because I'm real happy with several of these bottles of Jack Daniels that I have here right now. And the Elijah Craig, I bought the Elijah Craig, their base offering, that small batch, and I kind of like that too. I'd like to try some of the higher end Elijah Craig. I might try to get the a single barrel Elijah Craig next time I'm out if I can find some of that. But yeah, that's where we are. This Jack Daniel's single barrel select is something else. I'm really super stoked with this stuff. It's really, really good. The flavor of this one develops the longer you hold it in your mouth, and it continues to develop even after you've swallowed it. It's really, really amazing. Okay. Uh, Cooking this week. I didn't do a whole lot of cooking this week. I got. I'm trying to refresh my memory on what I did put together this week. We had a lot going on here, so the bacon video. I finished up the bacon and got it posted. The cold smoked bacon, that's the first time I've done cold smoking to finish bacon. And I think I like that process because once the bacon's cured, you don't really have to cook it or smoke it until you slice it. So we got that done. And this technique I used on that with the Morton Tender Quick was the first time I'd used the Tender Quick to cure it. I happen to have some Tender Quick because I bought it on Amazon a while back because I can't find it around here anywhere. But uh, you can make Tender Quick. I posted the recipe for making your own homemade Morton Tender Quick along with the video, and all it is salt, sugar, and uh, prog powder number one, your typical pink curing salt, and it's 1 cup of salt, half a cup of sugar, and I can't remember right off the top of my head the quantity on the pink curing salt, but you can make that up and keep it in a jar, and it'll keep indefinitely if you want to use Tender Quick. It's the first time I've tried it, but I basically just rubbed the Tender Quick all over that pork belly. I put it in a vacuum seal and tossed it in the refrigerator for a week, and I flipped it over every day and kind of massaged the package a little bit to make sure it maintained good contact, and it cured perfectly in 7 days. And on the seventh day, I took it out and I rinsed it off, and I made another little mixture of bourbon and maple syrup, and I tossed it back in a vacuum seal bag with that and let it ride for another 24 hours in the refrigerator. And I'm glad I went back and did that. I probably could have done that with the Tender Quick, but I didn't decide I wanted to do that till after the fact. So if you've seen my video, or if you're going to watch the video, keep that little nugget in mind. You can do those both at the same time. You could put the Tender Quick in and put the bourbon and maple syrup in with it. And in fact, if you wanted to do it that way, a better way to do it would be just to dissolve the Tender Quick in the bourbon and maple syrup mixture, um, and then put it in the in your either a vacuum seal or a Ziploc bag, whichever method you choose to do, but and let it go for the 7 days. But that technique worked really well. You don't have to have a whole lot of calculations. The only calculation you have to do is to figure out how much Tender Quick you need, and it's a percentage of the weight of the pork belly. It's 2.5% of however much your pork belly weighs. So if your pork belly weighs 1 kilogram, you need 25 grams of Tender Quick to get 2.5%. So I like to work in metrics. It's a lot easier. Just put the pork belly on your kitchen scale and get a gram weight on it, and then multiply that gram weight times 0.025, and that'll tell you how much Tender Quick you need to cure that. And all pork bellies are basically the same thickness, so 7 to 8 days in the cure is always going to be enough. Man, that's just really good. I don't think I've found anything so far that I like as well as I like that. So, Clay Edstrom's with us. I hope I pronounced that right. You're in the market for a vacuum sealer. Um, I've talked at length about vacuum sealers, and I'm a big fan of the chamber sealers. They cost a lot more money, but if you vacuum seal as much as I do, you're going to get that money back and bag costs savings. If you want an inexpensive vacuum sealer, I recommend just taking your pick from the Food Saver line. Find one you like in the Food Saver line and get it. Uh, if you want to get a chamber sealer, this new one that I have, this JVR Industries VAC 100, uh, I am totally amazed and totally stoked with this device. I just put a video review of that up on the Man Cave Meals YouTube channel. So if you want to see what my favorite chamber sealer is, go have a look at that one. Um, Also on my Man Cave Meals YouTube channel, there is it's a year or so old, or maybe even a little older by now. There's another review out there for the Avid Armor chamber sealer, which is a little less expensive than the JVR. It's not quite as good a sealer as the JVR, but it's probably pretty. It's mostly adequate for home use. I had a couple of minor issues with mine that just kind of got under my skin, and I kept on looking and was introduced to this JVR, and I really like the JVR. If you've got the money, uh, the JVR is a good choice, or if you want to go with the the mainstream one's blowing my, it's escaping my memory right now. The Tom Cleveland, what's the name brand on the vacuum sealer you have? VacMaster. That's it. The VacMasters, they're about $1,000. They're lower end. They've got a home use one now, but I can't recommend the home use one at all. I bought one of them, and I sent it back right away. I don't recommend buying that $300 or $400 one that they have. It's a piece of junk. So keep that in mind. So yeah, the vacuum sealer is, I'm the JVR Vac 100 is where I'm staying now. I'm so happy with that thing. It's not even funny. Uh, so where was I? I've got myself off track now. Okay, we were talking about whiskey. We were talking about the bacon. Okay, but yeah, the bacon cure. After I cured the bacon and after I gave it the extra day with the bourbon and maple syrup, I took it out and I just kind of patted it dry, and I decided to cold smoke this one. And before I cold smoked it, I put a rub on it that was a homemade rub because I did not want to add any more salt to the bacon. There was enough salt added to this thing with what we did with the cure. It could have taken a little more salt, but I didn't want my bacon to be over salted, so I made a real simple rub to put on it. And then I cold smoked it. I used my amazing pellet tube, and I gave it about, I think in total I gave it 9 hours in the cold smoke, and the temperature never got over about 90 degrees in my Kamado that day when I was cold smoking it. And then after the cold smoke, I I put it back in a vacuum seal bag and put it in the refrigerator and let that kind of mellow for 24 hours before I sliced it and cooked some of it. So check the video on that. That video, that's in Atlanta, on the Atlanta Grill Company YouTube channel and on the Atlanta Grill Company Facebook page. So, and also, if you guys haven't subscribed to the Atlanta Grill Company YouTube channel, how about giving a brother a hand and go click the subscribe button out there. I'm trying to get that subscriber count up on that channel. Okay, that was the bacon. The next thing I wanted to talk about was prime rib. I made a video, a prime rib video for the Atlanta Grill Company Facebook page and YouTube channel that hasn't been published yet. It's going to be published next week along with, I'm going to publish my write-up about prime rib on Thursday next week, and on Friday of next week I'll put the video up. I bought a beautiful dry-aged prime rib roast from Porter Road over in Nashville, Tennessee, and that thing was just beautiful. I use that to make the video, and what I do when it comes to prime rib is just the same thing I do with every big piece of beef or pork. I season it first. I get my salt on there, and I season that one with the Man Cave Meals AP Mojo. I just want to keep it simple. I like using the Man Cave Meal. I like using a salt, pepper, garlic based seasoning on prime rib. I don't try to get fancy with it, but I put that seasoning on there and wrapped it up in plastic, put it back in the refrigerator, and let it ride overnight. Then I cooked it the next day. On this cook, I did something for the video that I've not done on any of my previous prime rib roasts. Or I've done it, I haven't done it on video yet. Most of the time, when I cook a prime rib, I just like to slow roast it. I like to put it on at 250 degrees and just leave it there till it's done. And that's all I do to it. These things are easy to cook until you complicate it. And since I like my prime rib a medium rare, I usually put a temperature probe in it and I cook it till I hit about 125 degrees in the center of that roast. So when it's done, I pull it off, I wrap it up in foil, and I let it rest for 20 minutes or so before I slice it. And then that thing finishes up somewhere between 130 and 135. When I'm slow roasting it at 250, the carryover cooking's not. I usually don't get 10 degrees of carryover cooking at 250. Sometimes you will, but not that often. But this time, I know a lot of people like to do a reverse sear on a prime rib, and I just don't. Most of the reverse seared prime ribs I see don't appeal to me because typically they're charred. And a lot of times they're overcharred because since that meat's basically cooked already, it doesn't take a whole lot to go from beautiful caramelization to overcharred. A nice Maillard reaction, a nice browning and crust on the outside of that roast is nice. And my favorite way to get that is what I did in this video. I fired up my Kamado Joe Classic 3 and I ran that guy up to 500 degrees and I let the grill stabilize there for a while because I wanted to put this roast in the 500 degree heat for about 15 minutes because that's about all it's going to take to really brown that thing up on the outside and start and give it a good caramelization, give it a little bit of that browning that we want. So that's exactly what I did. And I talked about this in the video. I said you can skip this step if you want to. You don't have to do this. And if you don't have two grills, you can do that stage in your indoor oven. Just preheat your indoor oven to 500 degrees. But once it hits 500 degrees, let it ride there for 20 or 30 minutes because it's not really preheated adequately until it's had a chance to sit there for a while. But then you put that in there at 500. And like I said, 15 minutes is usually about enough. You just kind of want to look at it. If you've got a convection oven, it would be even better. I would put it in there with the convection fans running and just watch it and look at it. And you'll see it browning up. And then we go to the slow roasting. And once that's done, once I got that brown the way I wanted it, I took it and tossed it on the pellet Joe. I had the pellet Joe fired up and was running that guy at 250. And it was producing this beautiful thin blue smoke. And I let it run for, I think it took 2 hours and 10 minutes or so from there. And I took it off and rested it, sliced it. It was beautiful. It had a perfect cook. I can't wait to show you. I think I actually posted some pictures somewhere. I don't remember. I don't think I posted them on the Man Cave Meals page. I might have posted them, or maybe I did. I don't remember. But it's a beautiful edge-to-edge cook. It's medium rare all the way through. And a lot of people are concerned about overcooking the outside edges of the roast when you do the 500 degree thing, which I didn't overcook mine, but one of the things you can do is while you're preheating that grill to get it up to 500, take your prime rib and toss it in the freezer for about 20 minutes or so, maybe 30 minutes, and it puts a super chill on the outside of that roast where it'll brown on the outside without cooking deeply at the higher temperature. So give that a shot. if you haven't. And I really like the results of it. Another thing you can do after you do that part is if you like to make an herb paste to cook on your roast, put that herb paste on it after you've done that browning. Um, I've done prime rib roasts where I've made something like either an olive oil or a butter based herb smear to put on there that's got like garlic, maybe rosemary and thyme, or sage, or whatever kind of herbs you want to put on there. That's fine, but add that on there after you do the high temperature part, because those herbs will char, and they get bitter when they do. You don't want to. You're not gonna like the flavor of rosemary when it's turned black. It's really acrid. It just doesn't taste good at all. But prime rib, I also wanted to talk about buying a prime rib and cook times. The turkey questions have quit coming for me finally. My inbox, I wish I should show you guys that sometime. I get a lot of questions from people the week before Thanksgiving about mostly about how to cook their turkey. I get direct messages, and I try to answer all of them that I can. I just don't have time to do all of them, but the prime rib questions are going to start coming now, and that's why I've written this document. I did Turkey 101. If you go to the Man Cave Meals page on Facebook and do a search for hashtag Turkey 101, you'll find it. I wrote a very comprehensive guide to everything you could want to know about buying and cooking a turkey. And I've done the same thing for prime rib that I'm going to publish next week, but it's not nearly as long because there's just not much to talk about when it comes to cooking prime ribs. People psych themselves out with prime rib maybe because it's an expensive piece of meat. But even though it is an expensive piece of meat, it's one of the easiest pieces of meat to cook you'll ever come across. There's nothing complicated about prime rib. The only time I've ever seen somebody mess up a prime rib is, in my opinion, let's say, in my opinion, it was messed up, is when they burnt the outside of it doing a reverse sear. And that doesn't kill a prime rib, to be quite honest with you, because that's just affecting that little outside layer. You don't have to eat it, but if you don't burn it, it's still gonna be good. And that's the only thing I've seen done. I've seen people cook prime ribs beyond where they wanted to cook it. But even if that happens, guys, it's still going to be good. It may be, if you end up at medium instead of medium rare, that's not going to be the end of the world. Prime rib, in my opinion, I'd take prime rib at medium any day of the week. Uh, I got no problem with that. It's still delicious. Prime rib's about the flavor in the prime rib is mainly about that salt. You got to get that seasoning on there early and give it time to work, and it's going to be good. But the cook times on these things, that's one of the things people ask me. They'll say, I've got a 41 bone 110 pound prime rib. How long is it going to take me to cook that at 250? And I'll say 2.5 hours, give or take, and their mouth will fall open. They'll say, I've got a 3 bone 8 pound prime rib. How long is that going to take me to cook? I'll say 2.5 hours, and they say, what? The thing about prime rib is it doesn't matter how big your prime rib is. That prime rib is just getting longer. It's not getting any bigger around. So when I tell you, if you're cooking at 250, which I think is a sweet spot for cooking prime rib, it's going to take you 2.5 hours, give or take 20 minutes. Or I'd say, well, you could say give or take 30, but I don't think I've ever had a prime rib go for 3 hours at 250. And the biggest, I don't know, I don't cook huge ones, but even if I did cook a huge one, it's going to be done inside of 3 hours at 250. So it doesn't matter how big it is. If you're gonna do the 250 thing, it's gonna be 2.5 hours is a pretty good target. If your grill, make sure your grill's preheated, and that prime rib's gonna go 2.5 hours. Sharon says she overcooked her first one. Sharon, why did that happen? What caused you to overcook your prime rib? What went wrong? Uh, Tell me what happened with it. Was one Did you not get it off soon enough? Did you wait till it got too close to 130 or 135 before you pulled it off? And did the carryover cooking get you? It could be. Let's see if bad meat thermometer. That's good. I like you. You're like me. We're gonna blame it on the hardware. Heck yeah, the bad thermometer. So yeah, uh, that happens. You got to make sure you've got good equipment. Everybody needs to have a good quality instant read thermometer. And even if you are cooking with a leave-in probe, double check that against an instant read thermometer before you take your meat off. I've never seen a leave-in thermometer uh, read too low. I've seen them read too high, but I've never seen them go too low. But uh, when you buy a thermometer, any kind of electronic thermometer, it's worth your time to check it. Uh, and in order to do that, what I like to do is just do a simple glass of water. I will get a thermometer that I know is good, like my Lava Tools Javelin Pro Duo. I'll stick it in there and see what the temperature reads on it, and then I'll put whatever leave-in probe I'm getting in there and see how close it is. And if it's more than 2 degrees off or more than 3 degrees off, 2 degrees wouldn't bother me. If it's Actually, it wouldn't start to bother me till I'm up to about 5 degrees, because if I'm cooking with a leave-in probe, when I get within 5 degrees of my target, that's when I'm going to start looking at it with an instant read thermometer. So, yeah. Raymond Garcia. Okay, brother, we got a common problem, you and I. Raymond says his problem is the wife likes it well done. My wife won't touch it unless it's well done, so she doesn't really eat prime rib. Uh, it's a problem for me when I cook steaks for dinner, because I've got to cook one well done and I've got to cook one medium rare. And it depends on the steak. Not only does she like her steak well done, but she likes filet mignon. So when I buy those, I've become a master. I've become a master at cooking uh, nice thick filet mignons well done and getting them where she likes them. Um, Typically, I won't touch one that's less than 2 inches thick, and I really like to get them at least 2.5 inches thick. So I'll go to a place where I can get them to cut me one. And we were just having this conversation the other night. I think what I'm probably going to start doing for filet mignons, I'm just going to buy the whole tenderloin and cut steaks out of them. That's the cheapest way to do it, because when I go to Publix and get fillets from them, I'm paying $20 a pound for that. And I really don't like spending $20 a pound when I can get something that's better quality for 10 or 12 a pound by buying the whole thing. I've got a whole tenderloin in the freezer that I bought at Costco recently, and I haven't decided what I'm going to do with it yet, but I'm definitely going to cut some steaks out of it. But yeah, the well done thing, when you got to cook it two different ways, it's a problem. There's another solution to that, and that's doing a sous vide cook, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it is an option. And one way to do that is, even if you've only got one sous vide circulator, what I can do is put hers in the sous vide bath and get it up to 160, or between 160 and 165, and just hold it there. And then I cook my steak. And then while my steak, I always sear first and then finish it over indirect heat. So while mine is finishing over indirect heat, I can put a sear on the outside of hers that I've done sous vide and be done pretty close to the same time and have one I know she'll be happy with. But she likes the flavor and texture of the steaks that I do all on the grill better than the sous vide. So I haven't been doing that lately. But yeah, uh, there's a lot of options for making that work. It's not convenient, but it I've gotten good at it because I have to do it every time I cook steaks. But back to the prime rib, the other part of the prime rib story is when you go shopping. I get asked this question a lot too. Do I want to buy bone in or boneless? And guys, to be 100% honest with you, on the answer to that question is if I have a choice, I buy the boneless. I do not buy the bone in. Bone in looks good if it's Frenched, and it makes a nice display if you've got a nice clean French bone hanging out on one end of that. That's expensive though. You're paying for somebody to cut it that way for you, and then you're paying for the bone weight as well. The bone, it is pure myth that the bone adds any flavor, adds anything flavor wise to your prime rib. The only thing the bone does, and let me preface this by saying this is coming from my experience only, and it's not coming from anything I know on a scientific level. But the only thing the bone does for a prime rib is make it cook unevenly. You get a much more even cook all the way around that roast if you don't have a bone. That bone is a heat shield. The bone does not transmit heat through, and that little piece, that bit that's underneath the bone, when you cut those bones off, that's going to be cooked less than everything else on that roast. So if you can buy it boneless, buy it boneless. Have them tie it up, or you tie it up yourself. Get it rolled out nice and as round as you can get it. And that's another video that I might take and do. If yours isn't round, if it's kind of flat, roll it out. Work it a little bit. Roll it on your cutting board, and it'll soften up and it'll get nice and round. And you tie that guy up and put it in your refrigerator or put it in your freezer or do whatever you're going to do with it. But my answer to the question is buy boneless. I know everybody likes bone in. Those tomahawk ribeyes are badass looking. They really are. They're eye catching. But I just as soon cook without the bone. And that's what I tell people. I'm not going to lie to you. That's my preference. So it's one way to do it that it helps everything move along smoothly. That's what it says inside that glass. I don't know if you can see that or not. But that's the end of that. And I've been trying to come up with something I wanted to talk to you guys about for gadgets this week. And you might think I'm crazy when I show you what I'm going to show you. But before I do that, I don't have a Sharpie sitting out here. I'm going to tell you about a website before I tell you about the gadget I want to show. It's not really a gadget, but and I have no affiliation with these people of any kind. I've just spent an awful lot of money there. There's a website called webstaurantstore.com, and that is spelled WEBSTAURANT.com. It's like restaurant, but it's webstaurant.com. This company is a supplier to the restaurant industry, but they'll sell direct to you and me as well. Their prices are really amazing on the stuff that they have, and I've bought a lot of stuff from them. I bought a slicer, a big deli slicer from them. I bought a 10-gallon stock pot from them one time, and I've bought a bunch of other miscellaneous stuff. But the stuff that I use here regularly is what I want to show you today. And these things are cheap, and you can't get these things on Amazon anywhere near as cheap as you can get them from Webster Store. And what this is, these are Cambro storage containers. This is a 1 quart Cambro with a lid, and they're food safe, food grade plastic containers. These come in 2 different formats. They come in this white opaque one, and then they come in a polycarbonate that's clear. But the polycarbonate ones do cost more. But these guys are amazing to have around. I have quite a few of these 1 quart containers with the lid, and I've got some of these 2 quart containers with lids. I also have several 4 quart versions of this, and I have a couple of 12 quart ones also. And these things are just awesome for so many things. I use them. You can use these for food storage. You could store rice, flour, whatever kind of food that you want to keep dry and airtight in one of these. A lot of times, if I make, I've got a tub. I've got one of these tubs right here in the refrigerator right now with pimento cheese in it that I made yesterday. These things are just so versatile, and they come in so many different sizes, and they're cheap when you get them on WebsterStore.com. This 1 quart one, the container is $1.99, and the lid, the optional lid, you don't have to buy the lid, but you're going to want them, is 79 cents. So for $2.78, you've got a beautiful 1 quart container that you can store all kinds of stuff in. The 2 quart one here is $2.29 for just the container, and the lid for it is 89 cents. So you're looking at like what, $3.10 or $3.20 for that. The 4 quart container, which I don't have one empty at the moment, is $2.59, and it's got an 89-cent lid. The great thing about the 4 quart container is it uses the same size lid as the 2 quart. They're both the same diameter. The 4 quart's just deeper. The 6 quart version is $3.19, and the lid for it's $1.19. So those containers are in major use here in the man cave. I've got things stored in them like rice, flour, sugar, cornmeal, grits. And if you don't know what grits is, you should just unsubscribe from my channel right now. So I also use the 12 quart ones as dough tubs. Or the 6 quart ones I can use most of the time for bulk rising sourdough. They're beautiful for that. Pizza dough, you know, you can do pizza dough in one of these small 1 quart ones. They're just so versatile. Having 4 or 6 of each size of these things is just great. So that's my gadget for you for tonight. So it's not, like I said, it's not really a gadget, but it's something that I use all the time and I love. And that's part of what I want to talk to you about every time I show you a gadget. I'm not going to show you something just for the sake of showing you. It's going to be something that I use. And yeah, Sharon, there are people that don't know what grits are, but most of them live north of the Mason-Dixon line. It's a southern thing. Grits, when you get outside of the southeastern United States, there's a lot of people that don't know what grits are. It's polenta everywhere else in the country, and I don't know if they're exactly the same or not. So they're pretty close. But that's about all I've got for you for tonight. Uh, I wanted to talk about a Christmas cooking, which I should have done actually maybe before I did the gadget. Uh, do any of you have stuff you're going to cook for Christmas that doesn't include ham, turkey, or prime rib? What are you going to do? If you're going to do something unique for Christmas, let me know. One of the things I wanted to do this year, but I didn't get the ball rolling in time to make it happen, was show you how to cure a ham uh, from scratch. Because one of my favorite things to do is buy a pork picnic roast, and you guys know how cheap those are. That's the lower arm segment or the upper arm segment of a pork butt, and usually those things are about 10 pounds, and most of the time they're skin on, so you're going to have to take the skin off of those. But you can cure one of those, and you can do a wet cure on one of those and get it cured in 5 to 6 days. And you cure your own ham, and then you smoke that thing, and you've got a beautiful cheap ham that you've only spent $10 or $12 on. I know the pork picnics that I've bought from Publix are they're like $1.19 a pound. They're not very expensive at all. They're cheaper than pork butt. So we're going to do a tenderloin. Cannon's going to do a tenderloin. Uh, are you just going to cook the whole thing? How are you going to do it? I know a lot of people will smoke the whole tenderloin, or they'll sear it, or reverse sear it, or whatever. I can't make myself do that, and maybe I'll talk about that because I'm going to do a video when I get that tenderloin ready to cook. I like to break the tenderloin down into pieces because, first of all, I like to show how there's practically no waste on a tenderloin, and I like to use different parts of it for different things, and maybe I'm going to do a video. I did one on the Kamado Joe channel about how to break down a pork tenderloin. I'm probably going to do the same thing for Atlanta Grill Company here and have that video for them as well, because I think it's important to know how to do that. But I like to pull a Chateaubriand out of a pork loin and make a beef Wellington with it. I'll probably do it. A beef Wellington's something people like to do at Christmas. I didn't think about that. Um, that's a Christmas thing, and I've done it on the Kamado. If you're interested in that, it's on the Kamado Joe YouTube channel. If you search Kamado Joe's YouTube channel for beef Wellington, you'll find that. I did that, and it's not as difficult as you think. It's just a little time consuming, but if you prep properly for it, it goes pretty smoothly, and you end up with an amazing meal. And a 2 or 3 pound beef Wellington, I like to start with a Chateau that's 3 pounds, and that's enough to feed a lot of people actually, because you're only going to slice that off. Once it's done, you're going to slice off about 1 inch thick segments of it and serve it with other things, and that'll serve. You should be able to serve 8 people fairly easily with a 3 pound Chateau, if not more. So yeah, the beef Wellington, Cannon says he's going to whack it in half because one end's thicker than the other. Remove the chain, bone chips. Bone chips. Yeah, the silver skin does need to come off, and that's something I talk about there as well. So, uh, yeah, I've cooked whole tenderloins. I just don't like to do it that way because, like you said, both of the ends are smaller, and you end up. But that's a good thing if if you're going to feed a group of people that everybody doesn't want medium rare. You can pull your nice medium rare pieces out of the center of that, and that's where the good stuff is. And the people that like the well done, they're obviously not as worried about texture, so you can give them some of the stuff out off the petite roast or off the other end. But the chain, yeah, I like to pull the chain off no matter what because I don't like to cook the chain with it. The chain makes good stew beef meat or chili, or even throw it in a grinder and turn it into hamburger. The chain's real. It's perfect meat. You don't want to throw it away, but I don't like leaving it hanging on a whole tenderloin, even if I was going to cook the whole tenderloin, because By the time you get done cooking it, from turning it and whatnot, a lot of that chain's going to pull loose anyway, because there's not a whole lot holding that on there. You don't really have to do much cutting to get that chain loose. It's just being held on there loosely by some connective tissue usually, and that's where you end up. So, uh, yeah, Christy does a. I think Christy Pyle did. She originally did my beef Wellington. I don't know if she's still doing uh, the same recipe or not. I don't know if she's done it again since she did the first one or not. I'll have to ask her if she's going to do a Wellington this year or not. She may, but uh, I'm going to do something sometime soon. Uh, Maybe, in fact, I might try to get it done before Christmas. I'm going to do a pork Wellington, and I'm going to do something along the exact same lines as a beef Wellington, but I'm going to use pork loin instead of beef tenderloin, and I'm going to have some fun with it. Christy's with us, so there she is. Christy, you've done it twice, so you're going to do it again this year, or are you cooking that again? I didn't know Christy was with us. I didn't see her in here, but I know Christy's done it. She says she's done it twice, so maybe she's going to do it again this year. And yeah, she says it's easy. Now she's lying to you there. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. I don't know. Making the duxelle is uh, well, I don't know. It's definitely easy after you've done it once. Uh, but don't watch Gordon Ramsay and think it's as easy as he makes it look, because it's not. But it's definitely a fun cook to do. But I want to do something different, and I want to use a pork loin. But we're gonna do a pork loin. We're gonna have prosciutto involved in it. But the duxelle, the mushroom paste that we make to go in there. What I'm gonna do for the pork Wellington is going to be something entirely different. It's going to be way different from that. And now that I'm talking about it, I'm definitely going to get that done before Christmas, because that you could call that a poor man's Wellington, because you can get a pork loin uh, for $5, where you're going to spend uh, 80 or 90 to get a Chateaubriand, and um, I think we can make something nearly as impressive. So, yep, the wheels are spinning now. I've got a pork loin. So, yeah, we're going to make that happen. Well, that's about all I've got for tonight. I appreciate you guys joining me, and I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. We called Thanksgiving off with our family this year. My mom decided that we're not going to get together as a big group until things settle down a little bit. So, guys, have a good weekend, and hopefully I'll see you here next Friday.